Imagine this. The clock glows 3:27 a.m. The world is asleep. The streets are empty. Even the birds haven't begun their song. And there you are, wide awake. Most people panic in this moment. They toss, they turn, they whisper to themselves, why can't I sleep? What's wrong with me? They see it as a curse. But let me ask you, what if it isn't? What if those silent hours are not a punishment, but an invitation to reflect, to plan, to build while the world sleeps? You could be shaping your future. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, that sounds unrealistic. Sleep is essential. How can waking at 3 a.m. to be a good thing? And you're right, rest matters. Your body needs recovery. But here's the other side of the story. History, psychology, even spirituality all tell us the same truth, that these quiet hours carry a rare kind of power. Writers, monks, CEOs, artists, so many of them built their lives in the dark stillness before dawn. Why? Because the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. are free of noise, free of distraction, free of the world's demands. And in that silence, clarity appears. So, you can choose. You can see waking up at this time as insomnia, or you can see it as opportunity. An opportunity to ask, who am I becoming? What really matters today? And what small step can I take before the world even opens its eyes? Because here's the truth. Your mornings set the tone for your life. Clarity creates décision. Décision shape destiny. And the early hours give you a head start that most people never take. In today's video, we're going to break this down. Why waking up between 3 and 5 a.m. might be your hidden advantage. How to use these hours, not just to think, but to plan, to grow, and to take action. And how, over time, those tiny choices in the dark can build a future you'll be proud of in the light. So, let's begin. The hidden gift of 3 a.m., 5 a.m. When most people find themselves awake at 3, 4, maybe 5 in the morning, the first reaction is usually frustration. The mind jumps straight to panic. Why am I awake? What's wrong with me? Yet, what if I told you this is not a problem to be solved, but an opportunity waiting to be claimed? That those hours before dawn carry a gift that very few people ever unwrap. Think about it. At that time, the world is quiet. Notifications are silent. The phone doesn't buzz. Even the air feels still. In psychology, we call this a low-stimulus environment, a rare pocket of time where your brain isn't bombarded with constant noise. Neuroscientists at Harvard have shown that our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus and decision-making, works best when distractions are minimized. And between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., that's about as distraction-free as it gets. History, too, whispers its secrets. Many great minds, Benjamin Franklin, Immanuel Kant, Maya Angelou, were early risers. Franklin famously said, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." Monks and spiritual practitioners across cultures have long considered these hours sacred, calling them the ambrosial hours, when the mind is clearest and the spirit is most receptive. This isn't mystical fluff, it's about rhythm. Your circadian biology naturally enters a lighter sleep stage in those pre-dawn hours, making it easier to awaken and access heightened alertness if you embrace it instead of resisting it. But here's where it gets personal. For years, I used to see waking at 4 a.m. as a burden. I'd toss, turn, and label myself an insomniac. Then one day, instead of fighting it, I leaned into it. I sat with the silence. I journaled. I read slowly. Those hours became mind-free, unclaimed territory where ideas came alive. What I once called a problem turned out to be a hidden advantage. And I'm not alone. Ask entrepreneur, writers, even athletes. You'll hear stories of breakthroughs, strategies, and creative sparks, born in the quiet pre-dawn. Now, let's talk about you. Imagine tomorrow morning, you wake up at 3, 4, 5. Instead of stressing, you pour yourself a glass of water, breathe deeply, and take 10 minutes to reflect. No rushing, no screens, no pressure, just you and your thoughts. That single choice might set the tone for your entire day, and repeat it over weeks. It can reshape your life's trajectory. Of course, I can already hear the pushback, but I need my sleep. Absolutely. Sleep is critical, no argument there. This isn't about robbing yourself of rest. It's about reframing those rare mornings when you're naturally awake and choosing not to waste them in worry. The reality is, if you're up at that hour anyway, you might as well turn it into power. So here's my question for you. Have you ever experienced a moment of clarity or inspiration in the middle of the night or early morning? Maybe it was an idea, a realization, or just a sense of peace. Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And I promise others will relate too. Because in the end, the hours between 3 and 5 a.m. are not empty. They are pregnant with potential, whether you call it biology, spirituality, or simply good timing. This is the hidden gift of the early morning. It's a gift that waits quietly for anyone brave enough to open it. Clarity of mind. Let's be honest. Clarity is a rare commodity in today's world. Most of us wake up already overwhelmed. The phone lights up. Emails, pillion, headlines scream for our attention. And before breakfast, our minds are tangled in a web of noise. No wonder so many people feel directionless. Yet, this is exactly why the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. matter so much. In that silence, clarity isn't just possible, it's waiting for you. Clarity is not about having every answer. It's about clearing enough mental space to finally hear your own thoughts. According to research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, quiet reflection enhances metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. In simpler terms, when distractions fall away, your brain can actually evaluate your own patterns, beliefs, and choices. That's powerful, because without clarity, we wander. With it, we navigate. Here's the truth. Most people don't fear being awake at 4 a.m. They fear facing themselves. Silence can feel uncomfortable because it exposes the very thoughts we've been avoiding all day. Regrets, fears, doubts. Yet, this is where growth begins. The moment you stop running from your mind and start listening to it, you gain an edge. Over 90% of people still hiding from their own reflection. Now, how do you cultivate this clarity? Start small. Breathe. Just 3 deep breaths. Slow and deliberate. Focus on the inhale, the exhale. Let the tension drop. Journal. Write down whatever comes. Don't edit. Don't judge. Maybe it's messy. Maybe it's trivial. But once it's on paper, your mind is lighter. Studies from UCLA show that journaling reduces stress because it literally organizes emotional chaos into structured language. Ask better questions. Instead of replaying mistakes or worrying about tomorrow, ask, who am I becoming? What do I truly want? What's the one thing today that will matter most in 5 years? These aren't just mental exercises. They are decisions in disguise. And decisions, as we know, shape destiny Let me give you a story. A client of mine, a mid-level manager, struggled with constant overwhelm. He said his brain felt like a cluttered desk that never gets cleaned. I challenged him to use his 4 A.M. wake-ups differently. 10 minutes of journaling. That was it. Within weeks, his thinking sharpened. He started noticing patterns in his stress, recognized what drained his energy, and made better choices at work. His productivity soared not because he learned a new tool, but because he learned to clear his mind. And here's something personal I've found, that clarity often arrives in whispers. Rarely is it a lightning bolt. It's subtle, a gentle nudge telling you what to let go of or what step to take next. The trick is to give it room to be heard. So the next time you wake in those early hours, resist the urge to scroll your phone or drown in worry. Instead, sit with the silence. Ask yourself one simple question. If I could focus on just one thing today that truly matters, what would it be? Write the answer down. Trust it. And watch how that single decision changes everything else. Because clarity is the foundation. Without it, your actions scatter. With it, your life aligns. And when you own those quiet moments, you begin to own your direction. Planning with purpose. Clarity without planning is like a compass without a map. You may know where north is, but you'll still wander aimlessly unless you chart the path. That's where planning comes in. Those early hours are not just for thinking, they're for designing, for shaping your day with intention instead of drifting through it on autopilot. Here's a simple truth. Most people don't plan their lives. They react to them. The alarm rings. They scramble out of bed, grab coffee, and rush headfirst into chaos. By noon, they're already behind, chasing deadlines, putting out fires, and wondering why they feel drained. But when you plan before the world wakes, you flip the script. Instead of reacting to life, you begin to create it. Science backs this up. A study in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine found that people who engaged in implementation intention, the practice of writing down specific plans, were twice as likely to follow through on their goals compared to those who just thought about it. Writing down your priorities literally primes your brain for action. It's not wishful thinking. It's psychological wiring. So how do you plan with purpose? Start big, then go small. Begin by revisiting your long-term vision. Ask yourself, where do I want to be in 1 year, in 5 years, 10 years? Put it on paper. Big goals have gravity, they pull you forward. But they only become real when broken down into steps small enough to fit into today. Here's the formula I use every morning. 1, review your vision. Read your long-term goals so they stay alive. R, write your top 3 priorities for the day. Not 20, not 10, just 3. San, identify one needle-moving action, the one task that, if done, would make the day meaningful. Take a moment to picture it. You, sitting at 430A. M, Penninghund, sketching the blueprint of your day. When others wake, you're already ahead. You know what matters, what doesn't, and where your energy belongs. Let me share a quick story. A small business owner I once coached used to spend her mornings firefighting emails, texts, endless busy work. She felt productive, but at the end of each week, she realized she hadn't moved her business forward. I asked her to try something different. Wake an hour earlier, write down 3 core priorities, and commit to them before touching her inbox. The change was staggering. Within months, her sales grew, her stress dropped, and she felt in control again. Why? Because planning shifted her from reacting to leading. And here's the catch. Planning isn't about filling your schedule with more tasks. It's about trimming the noise. It's about deciding in advance what you will give your energy to and what you will not. When you don't design your life, someone else will. And trust me, their plan for you won't be much. So, tomorrow morning, when you find yourself awake before dawn, don't waste it on random thoughts or endless scrolling. Grab a notebook, write down your 3 priorities, and set your compass for the day. Because when you plan with purpose, every action becomes aligned, every choice intentional, and your days begin to build the future you actually want. Remember, a clear mind is the foundation, but planning is the bridge. Without it, your clarity fades. With it, your vision takes shape. Feeding the mind, you've gained clarity. You've mapped out your day. But here's the truth. Most people overlook success isn't only about doing more. It's about becoming more. And the best way to become more is by feeding your mind. Because, let's face it, if your input is junk, your output will be too. Think about it like this. Your mind is a garden. If you plant weeds, negative news, endless scrolling, gossip, that's what will grow. But if you plant seeds of wisdom, inspiration, and knowledge, then over time, that's what will take root. Early mornings are the perfect time for planting. The world is quiet. Your brain is fresh. And the distractions haven't yet stolen your attention. Neuroscientists call this the alpha state, a period shortly after waking, when the brain is especially open to learning and creativity. What you feed it then has an outsized impact. So what does it mean to feed the mind? It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be reading 10 pages of a book that challenges you, listening to a podcast that teaches a new skill, reflecting on a motivational speech, even writing a few lines of your own insights. The key is consistency. 30 minutes a day may not seem like much, but over a year, that's more than 180 hours of personal growth. That's the equivalent of taking 4 or 5 college-level courses without leaving your living room. History is full of examples. Warren Buffett spends up to 80% of his day reading. Oprah Winfrey has credited her lifelong habit of learning as the foundation of her success. And here's something even more relatable. A client of mine, a young teacher, I used to start her mornings scrolling through social media. She always felt drained before the day began. I challenged her to replace the scroll with 20 minutes of reading a book on leadership. Within weeks, her energy shifted. She felt sharper, more confident in the classroom, and even began mentoring others. The only difference, she changed what she fed her mind. And here's the beauty. You don't need hours. You don't need perfect silence. You just need the decision to start. 10 minutes of focused reading. 1 podcast episode while you stretch. A page of journaling where you reflect on what you learned yesterday. These small investments compound over time into wisdom, perspective, and resilience. But let me add this. Don't just consume, apply. Knowledge without action is like buying seeds and never planting them. Each morning, ask yourself, what did I learn today? And how can I use it? That simple question transforms passive learning into active growth. So tomorrow, instead of filling your mind with noise, fill it with something nourishing. Pick up that book you've been meaning to read. Download a podcast that inspires you. Write down an insight you want to remember. And then, most importantly, act on it. Because feeding your mind is not just about gathering information, it's about shaping who you are becoming. And the person you become will determine the life you create. The role of discipline. Clarity sharpens your vision. Planning charts your path. Feeding the mind gives you strength. But let's be honest, none of it matters without discipline. Discipline is the glue that holds everything together. It's the quiet force that turns intentions into actions, dreams into realities. Without it, even the best ideas stay stuck in notebooks. With it, even ordinary people achieve extraordinary things. Here's the tricky part. Most people think of discipline as punishment. A harsh drill sergeant yelling, "Do this," or else. But in truth, discipline is not your enemy, it's your ally. It's that inner voice that whispers, "Do what matters," even when you don't feel like it. And when you listen to that voice consistently, it changes everything. I once knew a man who had incredible talent, sharp mind, creative ideas, charisma, but he struggled to finish what he started. He would dive into projects with fire, only to abandon them halfway when things got tough. Years went by, and despite his brilliance, he stayed stuck. Why? He lacked discipline. Then one day, after a painful wake-up call, he committed to a simple rule: finish what he starts. At first it was small, writing 1 page a day, completing a workout even when he was tired, showing up on time no matter what. Slowly, the muscle of discipline grew stronger. Within 2 years, his life looked completely different. The projects he once abandoned became businesses. The scattered energy turned into results. And he'll tell you discipline, not talent, made the difference. Science agrees. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania found that self-discipline is a stronger predictor of academic success than IQ. Let that sink in. Discipline outranks intelligence, because brilliance without follow-through leads nowhere. But steady, disciplined action, even if small, always compounds. Here's the reality. Discipline is built in the little moments. Waking up when you said you would, even if you want to hit snooze. Writing a few lines when you don't feel inspired. Choosing water instead of soda. None of these actions look heroic, but stacked day after day, they create unstoppable momentum. Of course, discipline doesn't mean perfection. You'll slip. You'll miss days. You'll feel resistance. But discipline isn't about never failing. It's about always returning. Every time you realign with what matters, you strengthen the habit. Think about this. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. And every time you break that promise, your trust in yourself weakens. That's why discipline is so powerful. It's not just about productivity. It's about identity. Each disciplined act tells your subconscious, I can rely on me. So here's my question for you. Where in your life do you feel discipline is missing right now, and how would things change if you built it? Even in one small area. Share your thoughts in the comments. You might be surprised how much your story resonates with others. Because in the end, discipline isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the foundation of it. The bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Cross that bridge daily, and no dream will be out of reach. The emotional connection. Let's pause for a moment and ask an honest question. Why do so many people dread waking up at 3 or 4 a.m.? It's not always about fatigue. Often, it's because the silence feels too loud. In those quiet hours, there's nothing left to distract us from ourselves. No television humming in the background. No emails demanding attention. Just you and your thoughts. And sometimes, that's the scariest place to be. But here's the truth. Avoiding silence doesn't make those thoughts go away. It only buries them deeper. And what we bury doesn't disappear, it festers. The early morning hours pull those thoughts to the surface. And instead of resisting them, what if we leaned in? What if we treated them not as threats, but as signals? I'll share a story. A woman I once worked with, let's call her Anna, had lost her husband unexpectedly. Nights were hardest for her, and she often woke up around 4 a.m., gripped by grief and loneliness. At first, she hated it. She'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling swallowed by sorrow. But slowly, she began using those hours differently. She started journaling letters to her husband, writing out her memories, her regrets, her gratitude. Over time, those letters became a lifeline. They didn't erase her grief, but they gave her a way to process it, to transform it into meaning. What once felt like a curse became a space of healing. This is what I mean by emotional connection. The early hours are not just about productivity, they are about presence. They strip away the noise so you can finally hear what your heart has been trying to say. And sometimes, what it says is painful. Sometimes, it's uncomfortable. But more often than not, it's exactly what you need to face in order to move forward. Psychologists call this emotional awareness, and studies show it's directly tied to resilience. People who acknowledge and process their emotions rather than suppressing them handle stress better, build stronger relationships, and recover more quickly from setbacks. And what better time to practice this awareness than in those sacred, silent hours? So the next time you wake up at 3:30, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't immediately grab your phone or drown yourself in noise. Instead, sit with it. Place your hand over your chest. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? What part of me is asking to be heard? The answers may surprise you. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's hope. Sometimes it's just the need to be still for once. Here's what I've learned personally when I stop running from my emotions and allow myself to meet them in the quiet. They lose their power over me. They no longer control me from the shadows. Instead, they guide me. And that's the hidden beauty of waking in the early morning. You don't just connect with your goals. You connect with yourself. Because success without emotional grounding is fragile. But success built on honesty, awareness, and presence, that's unshakable. Practical morning ritual. By now, you may be thinking, this all sounds inspiring, but what do I actually do when I wake up at 3 or 4 a.m.? Great question. Inspiration without action fades quickly. That's why having a simple, repeatable ritual matters. It transforms vague motivation into a daily habit that sticks. Think of a morning ritual as an anchor. While the world is still asleep, it grounds you, it creates rhythm, order, and momentum before the chaos of the day even begins. And here's the best part. You don't need 2 hours or a fancy setup. Even 20 to 30 minutes can change the tone of your entire day if you use it wisely. Here's a practical framework you can adapt. 1. Sit in silence. 5 minutes. Don't rush. Don't check your phone. Just breathe. This isn't wasted time. It's your reset button. Neuroscience shows that even a few minutes of deep breathing lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and primes your mind for focus. Or journal or reflect. Write down 1 or 2 questions. Who am I becoming? What matters most today? Don't censor yourself. Remember, your journal is not a performance. It's a mirror. Set your top 3 priorities. This is where clarity turns into direction. Don't fill a page with tasks. Choose the 3 that, if completed, would make the day meaningful. This prevents overwhelm and sharpens your focus. So, feed your mind. Read a few pages of an inspiring book, listen to a podcast, or review notes from something you're learning. The goal is to input wisdom before the world floods your mind with noise. Woo. Move your body. You don't need a hardcore workout. Gentle stretching, a short walk, or even a few push-ups will wake up your system. Movement fuels energy, and energy fuels discipline. Now, does this sound simple? Absolutely. And that's the point. Complexity kills consistency. A ritual that's too complicated will collapse the first time you're tired or busy. But a ritual that's short, flexible, and meaningful, that's the one you'll keep. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, a young father, balancing work and family, told me he never had time for himself. His mornings were chaos getting kids ready, rushing to work, endless stress. I suggested he wake just 30 minutes earlier and follow this ritual. He resisted at first. I'm already exhausted. But after 1 week, something shifted. He wasn't just more productive. He was calmer, more patient with his kids, and felt in control again. His mornings no longer owned him. He owned them. And here's the beauty of this ritual. It's not about perfection. Some days you'll only manage silence and priorities. Other days you'll complete all 5 steps. Both count. What matters is showing up, because consistency, not intensity, is what transforms lives. So, the next time you wake between 3 and 5 a.m., don't waste the moment on frustration or worry. Treat it as a gift and follow a ritual that grounds your mind, directs your actions, and fuels your growth. Because a ritual isn't just about how you start your day, it's about who you're becoming, one small action at a time. The compounding effect. Here's a thought that might surprise you. Big change rarely comes from big actions. More often, it comes from small, consistent steps repeated over time. This is what I call the compounding effect of mornings. Think about money for a moment. If you save $1 every day, it doesn't seem like much. But saved and invested consistently, that dollar grows, multiplies, and eventually becomes a fortune. That's the magic of compound interest. Now, replace money with habits. Reading 10 pages, writing a few lines in your journal, moving your body for 15 minutes alone. These seem almost trivial, but repeated day after day, they compound into clarity, wisdom, health, and success. Psychologists call this the aggregation of marginal gains. The principle is simple. If you improve by just 1% each day, you don't end up 365% better by the end of the year. You end up nearly 37 times better. That's exponential growth. And it starts with tiny, almost invisible choices. Let me tell you a story. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, once wrote about a British cycling team that was historically terrible. No Olympic wins, no Tour de France victories. Their coach focused not on massive overhauls, but on small, 1% improvements, better bike seats, cleaner hand-washing habits, even improving sleep. Within a few years, the team became dominant, winning multiple Tour de France and Olympic gold medals. Not because of one big change, but because of many small ones that compounded. Your mornings work the same way. 10 minutes of silence each day doesn't just give you peace. It strengthens your ability to focus under pressure. Writing 3 priorities every morning doesn't just organize your day. It trains your brain to think strategically. Reading just 10 pages doesn't just teach you something small. It reshapes your worldview over time. And when these actions are repeated, they stack. They create momentum. The trouble is, most people underestimate the power of small actions because results don't show up immediately. Miss a workout today, you don't suddenly gain weight. Skip journaling. Tomorrow you don't instantly lose clarity. But over weeks, months, and years, the difference becomes massive. Discipline compounds, just like neglect does. The gap between the person who takes small, consistent action each morning and the person who doesn't only widens with time, and here's the real kicker, momentum works in both directions. Positive habits compound into growth. Negative habits compound into regret, which means every small choice is a deposit in one of 2 accounts. Your future success or your future struggle? So, ask yourself, which account am I depositing into today? Because when you understand the compounding effect, mornings no longer feel like isolated routines. They become investments. Every time you rise early and follow through, even imperfectly, you are stacking bricks on the foundation of your future. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back and see you've built something extraordinary. Big change isn't magic. It's math. And your mornings are the formula. So here we are. We've walked through the hidden gift of those quiet hours, the clarity they bring, the plans they help shape, the wisdom they feed your mind with, the discipline they strengthen, the emotions they allow you to face, the rituals that ground you, and the compounding effect that turns small steps into extraordinary results. And maybe you're asking yourself right now, does it really matter if I change my mornings? Can something so small actually transform my life? The answer is yes. Not because one morning will change everything, but because one morning repeated again and again builds a life. Success is never built in a single dramatic leap. It's stitched together in the fabric of daily choices. Those choices happen when nobody's watching, when it's dark, when the temptation to roll over is strongest. That's when transformation is quietly born. Remember, this clarity creates better decisions. Planning directs those decisions. Feeding your mind strengthens your ability to carry them out. Discipline ensures you follow through. And all of these, practiced consistently, create momentum. Momentum is invisible at first. You won't see much after a week, but after a month, after 6 months, after a year, you'll wake up one day realizing you've become someone you once only dreamed of being. And yes, there will be resistance. There will be mornings you don't want to get up. Days you'll feel tired. Times you'll question whether it's worth it. That's normal. That's human. But here's the truth. Discipline is not about never slipping. It's about always returning. Every time you get back up, every time you recommit, you prove to yourself that you're serious about your future. So now the question is, what will you do tomorrow morning? Will you roll over and let the day own you? Or will you rise and own your day? Will you spend those quiet hours in worry? Or will you use them as a gift? The choice is yours, and it's one only you can make. I want to challenge you, just try it for the next 7 days. Wake a little earlier. Sit in silence. Write down your priorities. Read or learn something that feeds your mind. Do it imperfectly. Do it clumsily if you must, but do it. And watch how even in 1 week, your energy, your focus, your confidence begin to shift. And then share your journey. Drop a comment below. What is the one small change you're committing to this week? I want to hear it. And not just for me, for everyone here. Because when one person commits, it inspires another, and that ripple effect, that's how communities of growth are built. If you found value in this message, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. But more importantly, take action. Because the secret to success isn't found in motivation alone, it's found in consistent discipline, in the small, daily steps that most people overlook. Own your morning, and you will own your life. Now, tomorrow at 3, S or 5 a.m., the world will be quiet. The question is, will you rise?